The smell you remember from this morning is bread. Not fancy bakery bread, clay oven bread, the kind that stays hard on the outside and soft on the inside and leaves the oven at 6 in the morning, and the smell occupies the entire street. You grew up in this smell. Shiganshina is this smell. Your mother woke up before the sun to sell at the market. Your father worked in the wall garrison, not as a soldier, as a mason. He fixed the loose stones after heavy rains. He always said the wall was eternal, not as an exaggeration, as an established fact. Like saying the sun rises in the east, the wall is eternal, period. You believed in that. Everyone believed in that. It was easier that way. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, year 845. You are 18 years old. You are at the market helping to carry a crate of vegetables to your neighbor's stall when the sky changes tone. Not a cloud, the entire sky. A noise, not a noise, a thing that is not a noise, that is more like the air tearing itself apart, cuts the morning from one end to the other. You drop the crate. The tomatoes roll across the floor. You don't even notice. Because the wall your father repaired his whole life was just kicked by a god. The sound came first like a lightning bolt, not from above, from the south wall. An electrical discharge of industrial proportions that left a high-pitched hum in your right ear and didn't leave for weeks. Then the ground vibrated. Not an earthquake, something more local, something that came from below the cobblestone asphalt and rose through the soles of your boots, straight to your knee. You stood still in the middle of the street. Everyone did, like collectively. 200 people at the same time stopped moving. The brain does that. It looks for the cheapest explanation before accepting the impossible. Out-of-season thunder, military works, an accident at the arsenal. The human brain will do anything to avoid having to face the truth. Then the hand appeared. A hand, on top of the 50-meter wall, without skin, with steam coming out of the joints like an industrial pressure cooker. Fingers the size of houses digging into the stone as if it were soft clay. And then, the head. A head that blocked the sun. Cold shadow, out of nowhere, as if someone had turned off the day's switch. You didn't process it. The brain literally didn't, like, your eyes were seeing, but your brain was not translating. There was a disconnection between the sensory organ and the interpretation center. Exposed, striated muscles, red tendons without skin, enormous white teeth without lips. Everything on the wrong scale. Everything wrong. 60 meters high. The scariest thing was not the size. It was the smile. A fixed smile, without emotion, as if the face didn't know what it was doing to the human body down there. Your lungs stopped for 6 seconds. You are not exaggerating. You counted later. The diaphragm simply forgot the protocol. Your legs became heavy, not from abstract fear. Physically heavy, as if someone had injected lead into your shins. Someone screamed behind you. You didn't turn your neck to see who it was. This is the thing that will haunt you for years. You heard a name being called and didn't turn. And then the Colossal Titan kicked. The sound of the kick was not a bang. It was a pressure, a wave of air that arrived before the noise and threw you against the vegetable stall as if you weighed nothing. You hit your left shoulder on a wooden beam and heard the snap before feeling the pain. The dust arrived a second later, a wall of gray powder that erased the sun for good. First smell, sulfur. That smell of volcanic rotten eggs that sticks in the throat. The steam from the Colossal Titan had traveled 6 blocks in 3 seconds. Second smell, dust, pulverized rock. 100-year-old mortar transformed into particles that went straight into the lungs and dried the saliva in a fraction of a second. You tried to breathe and gagged. Tried again. Coughed so much that your eyes watered and you were literally blind for 30 seconds. Then you heard the stones. Wall fragments in parabolic trajectories. Not small stones, blocks the size of entire wagons. The first fell 3 houses to the left. The sound was an impact of war. The house simply ceased to exist. 1 second it was there. In the next there was a hole and dust. And inside the house, there was a family having breakfast. The first wave of deaths in Shiganshina was not from a Titan bite. It was the roof of their own house. You stood up running for the first time. Not to flee from the Titans, to flee from your own neighborhood that was raining from the inside out. A block of rock passed 2 meters from your head. You felt the displacement of air on your face. Hot, very hot, like opening the door of an industrial oven. 2 meters. 2 meters. You knew they had entered before seeing any of them. The ground vibrated differently, not the vibration of the explosion, a rhythmic percussion. 2 slow, deep beats, separated by 3 seconds each, like a giant metronome 2 streets back. The dust on the cobblestone floor jumped at each beat. It was beautiful, in a macabre way. Then he turned the corner. 15 meters. The equivalent of a 5-story building walking, facial expression of someone sleepwalking, vague smile, wide eyes without real focus, moving slowly but with a purpose that there was no way to deny. The worst was not the size, it was the sound he made. A groan, masculine, dragged out, coming out of a giant's throat but sounding strangely human, distorted, lowered, like a recording of a human voice playing at the wrong speed. Your spine freezes when a monster makes a human noise. The street became alive in a wrong way. Not organized human movement, fluid. The crowd transformed into liquid with pressure, shoulders hitting your shoulder, elbows in your side. The smell of fear sweat mixed with dust and sulfur. Someone screaming a name in panic repeatedly in your left ear without stopping. You tried to help a woman who had fallen. You stretched out your hand, and the crowd, it simply passed over. You were dragged along. Her hand vanished. You didn't decide to abandon her. Physics decided for you. This is what nobody tells you about mass disasters. It's not that people become monsters. It's that the system of 10,000 bodies in panic has forces that no individual can oppose. If you tripped there would be no floor. There would be boots, dozens of them, passing over as if you were another obstacle in the way. You kept your feet. It cost all your muscular energy just for that. You knew Shiganshina by heart. Each alley, each shortcut, each roof eave. The problem is that Shiganshina had stopped being Shiganshina. The main street was blocked by a block of wall the size of a house that had fallen across between 2 buildings. You turned into the side alley. 15 meters later, another block. Rubble, in flames. The city you grew up in became a labyrinth that was no longer the same labyrinth, and only one destination exists: the North Gate, the river docks, the evacuation ferries, the only exit point of a semicircle surrounded by walls on all sides. Shiganshina was designed as a decoy city for the Titans. What nobody told you is that when the bait fails, the residents become the bait too. To your right, you heard wood yielding, the sound of a century-old oak beam surrendering to the weight of a hand that shouldn't exist. And then the scream, short, interrupted. Your body did a thing that your brain didn't authorize. It stopped thinking about other people. It was not a decision. It was a migration of control. From the prefrontal cortex, the place that makes you human, that makes you care, that makes you have empathy, to something older, deeper, that only understands distance and direction. A boy of about 8 years old grabbed your arm. You looked at him. He looked at you. You saw the desperation in his eyes and felt. You felt his hand slipping when you accelerated. You accelerated. You accelerated. The invasion of monsters forces humanity to become monsters to survive. This is the irony that the Colossal Titan doesn't tell you when he kicks the gate. Your vision narrowed. The fog of adrenaline discarded the periphery. Only the corridor ahead existed. Only the north existed. Only the dock existed. You heard the river before seeing it. The sound of fast water was the most civilized sound you had heard in the last 20 minutes. And then the last alley opened, and you saw what the organized end of the world is. 2,000, 3,000 people on the riverbank in a space for 200. The stationary guard shouting cargo numbers. Ferries moved by steel cables and compressed gas cylinders, the same technology as the soldiers' locomotion hooks, with maximum weight plates, 150 tons. 150 tons. A number that transforms people into weight. A number that will decide who survives and who doesn't. The odor here was different. Not just sulfur and dust, blood, much blood. The coppery and sweet smell of hemorrhage on an industrial scale mixed with smoke and gunpowder from the stationary guard cannons firing behind you. A young soldier, younger than you, was using the rifle butt to push away people who were trying to climb up. His face was... He cried while he pushed. You understood that the cruelty there was not sadism. It was arithmetic. 150 tons. 150 tons. More than that, and the ferry sinks before reaching the gate. You used your shoulder, your elbow, forced the way with the same physical strength you used in the street. At some moment, You passed over someone who had fallen. You didn't stop. The boarding ramp was 2 meters away when the ferry closed the chains. You jumped. The metal of the side hit your right knee. You grabbed and rolled to the deck, stayed face down, breathing with your mouth open on the rusty metal floor while the ties were released. You made it. You, not them. The ferry moved. The steel cables sang with the tension. The current of the canal pulled the hull, and the entire set began to slide toward the internal gate. The last separation between Shiganshina and the safe interior of Wall Maria. The adrenaline began to drop. Your knee bled. You noticed for the first time that you had cut the palm of your left hand at some point, without knowing when. You stood up on the deck, looked back. The bank was still full of people. Hundreds of faces turned toward the ferry that was moving away, some with their mouths open, some holding children in the air as if you could catch them from where you were. You recognized two faces that you knew. It was at that moment that the ground of the docks exploded. The armored Titan came in continuous acceleration, columns of steam coming out of petrified joints, and collided against the internal gate with a force that sent the shockwave through the river and made the entire ferry shake like paper. The gate exploded. Wall Maria was officially lost. The ferry moves. The internal gate of the canal closes behind you with a metallic thud that resonates inside the chest. You are on the inside. You are alive. And then the clarity returns. It's the worst part. The clarity. With the adrenaline dropping, the mind begins the inventory, begins to compute what just happened, begins to replay each decision of the last 45 minutes. The woman's hand that slipped, the 8-year-old boy, the 2 faces on the bank. Surviving is not the opposite of dying. It is a different form of losing. Why you? You were not stronger than that mother with the child, not smarter than the elderly couple on the market corner. You arrived before them at the docks because, what? For having been closer? For having tripped over a smaller block? For having pushed harder? Why you? Why? You. From the deck you look back for the last time. The flames of Shiganshina paint the sky orange through the smoke. The city that smelled like bread in the morning now smells like ash. Wall Maria fell. But the thing that really fell was the lie that the walls were sufficient, that ignoring the danger was the same as being safe. 50 years of peace created an entire generation that never needed to learn how to flee. A generation that woke up every morning under a 50-meter wall and thought, we are safe. You were that generation. Today morning you were buying tomatoes at the market, and now you are on a rusty deck with your knee bleeding and 2 faces in your memory that you won't be able to take out. The wall didn't fall because it was weak. The wall fell because everyone needed to believe that it was infinite. If you would freeze at the time of the bang or leave running immediately, comment here below, because psychology says that most people take more than 3 minutes to start fleeing even hearing the alarm. Leave the like if you survived until here. Would you like me to help you create an image of the Colossal Titan's hand appearing over the wall based on this description?